All right, everyone, welcome in. Ready for another deep dive with us? Today's date, January 16th. Going to be a wild ride, folks. We've got coronations, comic books, and even a national day for, well, doing absolutely nothing. Buckle up.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. One single date, January 16th, and it's jam-packed with these incredible stories. It's like history's not just this straight line, right? It's more like a tangled web of all these different things happening, people, events, all connected somehow.
I like that. A tangled web. That's a great way to put it. So let's untangle this web a bit, shall we? And we'll start way back in 1547 with, well, a guy whose name isn't exactly known for bringing good vibes. Ivan the Terrible.
You gotta wonder what was going through their minds with that name. Like, hey, let's pick a name that strikes fear into the hearts of our enemies. But maybe it was all part of the plan, right? To make everyone just a little bit terrified.
Ivan, okay, just doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? But seriously, this was a big deal. His coronation as Tsar of Russia. What was Russia like back then? Can you paint us a picture?
Think vast, ambitious, a land trying to, figure out its place in the world. Ivan's coronation, it was a statement, a huge one, basically solidifying his power, showing everyone who was in charge, kicking off a new era.
A new era, huh? But it sounds like not everyone was thrilled about it. What about folks who weren't exactly lining up to celebrate, the ones who maybe, weren't so into Ivan?
Well, let's just say Ivan wasn't exactly known for being patient or for, tolerating anyone who disagreed with him. Yeah. Some stories even talk about executions, people who refused to go to his coronation. Pretty strong message, don't you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be on his bad side. Definitely not the kind of party atmosphere you'd see on like a Dancing with the Czars reality show. But hey, speaking of things changing dramatically, let's jump ahead a few centuries to another January 16th, this time 1920. America goes dry. Prohibition kicks off. The 18th Amendment, bam, no more alcohol.
It seems like a pretty simple thing, right? Just banning alcohol. But prohibition, it's a whole lot more complicated than that. We're talking decades of social and political movements all coming together. This whole underlying anxiety about what alcohol was doing to society.
Kind of like dry January today, but on a national scale and with, the law behind it. Did it work, though? Did it actually stop people from drinking?
See, that's where things get really interesting. You've got this noble goal, right? Trying to curb alcohol consumption. But then, whoa, a whole bunch of unintended consequences pop up. Bootlegging, speakeasies, and of course, organized crime. A whole new industry built on breaking the law.
So maybe not exactly unhappy hour back then, more like dangerous hour if you got caught in a raid. Okay, but enough about booze. Let's switch gears completely. January 16th, 1939, anglers get a new best friend. Nylon fishing leaders. DuPont introduces them. Must have been a pretty big deal in the fish world, huh?
Absolutely a big deal. I mean, before nylon, fishing leaders were made of things like silkworm gut, not exactly the strongest stuff. Nylon. Stronger, more flexible. It meant more fish being caught. Totally changed the game.
And, gotta wonder if any fishermen back then ever tried, using their wives' nylon stockings in a pinch. Okay, maybe that's a visual we don't need.
Let's just leave that one to the imagination, shall we? The real takeaway here is, it wasn't just about catching more fish. Nylon made fishing more accessible to just about anyone.
Speaking of accessible, how about a cultural icon? A symbol recognized all over the world. January 16th, 1939, Superman makes his grand debut in Action Comics, #1.
It's way more than just a comic book debut. Think about it. Superman arrives just as the world's on the brink of war. All this anxiety about the future. It's not a coincidence that a symbol of hope, of strength, pops up right then.
And he's still going strong, 84 years later. Crazy. You almost wonder if that first issue was printed on steel or something. It's got to be worth a fortune by now.
Well, the steel is more metaphorical, representing his resilience, his enduring appeal. But you're right, he stood the test of time. His story's been told and retold, generation after generation. And that's the amazing part. He's always evolving, but those core values, hope and justice, those are the things that people connected with back in 39, and they still connect with us today.
From a superhero saving the world to something a little scarier. 1974, Jaws hits the scene.
Ooh!
Bet that book made a lot of people think twice about swimming in the ocean.
It definitely tapped into a primal fear, didn't it? And then fast forward to 1985, Playboy makes a decision that, maybe it says something about the changing times. They ditch staples and switch to binding for their, centerfolds.
Interesting. A subtle change, but I can see how that might reflect some shifting cultural attitudes.
Yo.
But let's move on to something a little more lighthearted. January 16th is also a day for celebrating well, nothing. National Nothing Day.
Gotta love this one. This wonderfully quirky holiday, it was the brainchild of Harold Pullman Coffin, newspaperman back in '73, and he decided, hey, everyone needs a day to just do absolutely nothing. Might have seemed radical back then, but maybe even more relevant now in our always-on gotta-be-doing-something world.
I once sent an intern to a restaurant to celebrate National Nothing Day. Literally, instructions were, sit there, do nothing. Apparently, it drew quite a crowd.
You know, it's funny how something so simple, doing nothing, can really capture people's attention. Maybe it's a reminder that in our crazy, hyper-connected world, taking a break, a pause, it can be a powerful thing.
And on that note of pausing, let's take a break from our chronological journey and jump into something a little more fun, a little more celebratory. Birthdays. You ready for a rapid-fire round of notable figures, all born on January 16th?
Hit me with it. Let's hear those birthdays. Okay, first up, we've got a guy you might recognize from the football field, Joe Flacco. He's hitting the big 4-0 today.
40 years young. Man, I bet he's still got some great passes left in him.
40, that's a big one for any athlete. And Flacco's had a heck of a career in the NFL. Speaking of impressive careers, how about this guy? Lin-Manuel Miranda, turning 45 today. The man is a force of nature in the entertainment world.
Seriously, Hamilton and the Heights, and like a million other things. Composer, lyricist, rapper, actor, director. The list goes on.
What gets me about Miranda is how he just blends it all together. History, music, social commentary. And he makes it fun, you know, entertaining, but it also makes you think. A true original, that's for sure.
You know, speaking of originals, can't forget the one and only Kate Moss, celebrating her 51st today. She's been a legend in the fashion world forever.
Yeah, and she really did change things up, didn't she? Redefine what booty meant, opened the door for a lot more diversity on the runway.
Absolutely. Okay, from supermodel to, well, soulful songstress. Sad's turning 66 today. You know, there's always that debate, is it Sade or Sade?
It's Sade. And just for the record, her full name is Helen Folasade Adu. She's one of those artists who just has that timeless quality, you know, her music, it's like, it just transcends whatever's trendy at the moment.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, let's shift gears a bit from smooth grooves to, well, something a little more on the edge. John Carpenter, the master of horror, Halloween, The Thing, so many classics. He's turning 77 today.
He's an auteur for sure.
Yeah.
Those visuals, the music, he created a whole style, gave us nightmares, but he also gave us some of the most iconic scenes in horror movie history.
Yeah, he knows how to get under your skin. Okay, but let's lighten things up a bit. Jim Stafford turning 81 today. The guy behind Spiders and Snakes, My Girl Bill, those fun, quirky songs.
Oh, Jim Stafford. He just has this playful energy. It's infectious. He's a good example of an artist who's not afraid to be different. You know, embrace the weirdness.
Totally. Okay, from playful to, well, a little more heartfelt. Ronnie Millsap's 82nd birthday today. You might know him for There's No Getting Over Me, that classic country hit.
Millsap, he's one of those crossover artists, blends country, pop, R&B, created his own sound. And he's also, you know, broken down barriers as a blind musician. Inspired a lot of people.
And last but not least, we've got a racing legend turning 90 today. AJ Foyt, a 4-time Indy 500 winner, an icon in the world of motorsports.
Man, talk about a life lived in the fast lane. Foyt's career, it's all about skill, determination, and that pure passion for racing. He's the real deal, a true legend.
Wow, what a lineup. From football to music to horror films to racing. It's amazing to think they all share the same birthday.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What's happening today, right now, that we'll be talking about years from now, on another January 16th? What stories are being written that'll become part of history?
It's a good question. What seems small today might turn out to be huge? It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. We're all making history, even if we don't realize it. You know, it's kind of crazy when you think about it, right? We started with Ivan the Terrible, this like almost mythical figure. And then we talked about Superman. You wouldn't think they'd have much in common. But they both came along during these times of massive change, you know, when the world was kind of upside down.
It is pretty wild, isn't it? And that's the thing I love about looking at history through this lens, a specific date. It throws all these different things together. Events, people, makes you see the connections you might have missed otherwise. The bigger picture.
Yeah. Like who would have thought that nylon, you know, something we think of for fishing lines, would end up changing so much? From stockings to parachutes, it's everywhere.
Exactly. It shows you how innovation works, right? You start with one idea, and then boom, all these unintended consequences ripple out in ways you'd never expect.
And sometimes, even the silliest things can. like grab everyone's attention, become part of our culture. Who knew that a day for doing absolutely nothing would become a national thing?
Maybe it says something about us, you know? Maybe deep down we all crave a break from all the craziness. A reminder that sometimes doing nothing is the best thing you can do.
I think you're right. So everyone listening, here's something to think about as you go about your day. What's happening right now, right this second, that we'll be talking about years from now on another January 16th.
Ooh, I like that. What's going to be the big story? Could be a scientific discovery, a political decision, or even just like a random act of kindness that ends up making a big difference.
Exactly. It's kind of mind-blowing. We're all part of history, every single one of us.
We are. Every choice, every action, it all adds up. We're creating this story right now.
So there you have it, folks. January 16th. We've gone from coronations to comic books, from Prohibition to National Nothing Day, and everything in between. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it?
It really has. Hopefully it's left you with some new insights, some things to ponder.
Definitely. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep uncovering those fascinating stories because they're all around us every single day.
Couldn't agree more. That's what it's all about, right? Keeping those minds curious and those imaginations open.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into history, everyone. We'll see you next time.